Right Away with Craig Murray. For more information, visit cmurray.com. Can you dance? Can you dance to your writing? Is there a beat? Far too often you'll read stories that go something like this. Timmy went out of the house. He walked down to the store. He bought some eggs and milk. Or whatever it might be. The problem here is that the sentences are all very similar in size and syllable count. They're repetitive, droning. Da, 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 da. You want to break that up. Avoid it. Don't be afraid to be expansive, expressive, and creative in your writing. The plain was rich with crops. There were many orchards of fruit trees. And beyond the plain, the mountains were brown and bare. There was fighting in the mountains at night. We could see the flashes from the artillery in the dark. It was like summer lightning, but the nights were cool, and there was not the feeling of a storm coming. A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway. The day was cold, the wind cutting, the sun a dim watermark on the gray sky, and no one said much as we trudged up the steep stone ramparts that snaked along the mountain spine. A Promised Land by Barack Obama. There was a great evil that descended upon the land of literature at some point, a foul, stained thing that crept in on dry, cracked tendrils and infected the written word with sleep-inducing mundanity. The dreaded collegiate writing. Everyone must sound the same. Everyone must follow the same rules. All writing must be bland and unremarkable and undifferentiated. What? You want to use expressive terms, adjectives, flowery prose, or anything with more color than the beige department of bland RUs? Never. Get out. Mediocrity and sameness and writing in the exact same style as everyone else does is only the acceptable format. Yeah, no. He looked exactly as much as usual, all pink and silver as to skin and hair, all straightness and starch, as to figure and dress, the man in the world least connected with anything unpleasant. The Wings of the Dove by Henry James. It was only a smile, nothing more. It didn't make anything all right. It didn't make everything all right. Only a smile, a tiny thing, a leaf in the woods shaking in the wake of a startled bird's flight. But I'll take it, with open arms, because when spring comes it melts the snow one flake at a time, and maybe I just witnessed the first flake melting. That's Kite Runner by Khalid Hosseini. You need to bring joy to your writing. You need to bring your own voice, your own creativity, your own flavor. Write that purple prose. Write it as purple as a wild rose of Cairo, as purple as a drunk's nose. Give it the violet hues of a midsummer's fading sky. Be expressive and wild and bring excitement and difference to your voice. I couldn't tell you the number of times I've opened a book, started reading and thought, this could be written by anyone. Hell, it could be written by an AI. There's no flavor. It's bland and tasteless. It sits like ash upon the tongue of the reader, doing nothing more than filling in the silence of the day with gray noise mediocrity. When we were young, the words are scattered all around us as they are assembled by experience. So also are we, sentence by sentence until the story takes shape. The Plague of Doves by Louise Eldridge. You think that you're an iconoclast, but you're not. You just move or replace what you cannot have. If you fail at something, you retreat into something else. Nothing changes you. I left you because I knew I could never change you. You would stand in the room so still sometimes, as if the greatest betrayal of yourself would be to reveal one more inch of your character. The English Patient by Michael Ondaatje. It's incredibly important that you remember the first secret ultimate rule of the English language. It's a secret, or mostly a secret that no one wants you to know. Now, you might want to get a pen and paper handy. You might want to close the doors, draw the curtains, check over your shoulder to make sure you're not being spied upon when I tell you this secret and unassailable rule about English. Are you ready? Do you really want to know the all-powerful rule about English? Okay. There really are no rules, at least not in the way you might be thinking. The English language gains its greatest power by being a thief. It will unashamedly rifle through the pockets of other languages and cultures and just steal words that suits it. If that doesn't work, it'll just make words up, jam other words together, change the meaning, the way they're spoken or written, whatever it wants to. It'll make things excessively dry or more flowery than Mr. Florist's big store of bouquets. This is not done by some secret committee. This is not done by some voting that takes place in ivy-colored halls. It's done by you, by me, by our children. Now, I'm not talking about the adoption of bad writing or poor English or anything else like that. I'm talking about your ability to bend this beautiful language to suit your wants and needs, to play with it, to ruffle its feathers, to sugar the linguistic cup, and to write and create outside of the boring collegiate style. Lost opportunities, lost possibilities, feelings we can never get back. That's part of what it means to be alive. But inside our heads, at least where I imagine it, there's a little room where we store those memories, a room like the stacks in the library. And to understand the workings of our own heart, we have to keep on making new reference cards. We have to dust things off every once in a while, let in fresh air, change the water in the flower vases. In other words, you'll live forever in your own private library. Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami. The one thing you'll notice in all these examples is the changing line length, the almost poetic way the words flow, not short, choppy, declarative sentences. There's a rhythm to them. You could dance to them if you wanted to. We got to dance, baby. We got to feel that rhythm. Caitlin watched from the battlements, waiting and watching as she had waited and walked so many times before. Beneath her, the swift, wild tumblestone plunged like a spear into the side of the broad red fork, its blue-white current churning the muddy, red-brown flow of the greater river. A morning mist hung over the water, as thin as gossamer in the wings of memory. The boat was almost out of range, drifting in and out of the river mist. Wordless, Edmure thrust the bow at his uncle. Swiftly, Sir Brendan said. He knocked an arrow, held it steady for the brand, drew and released before Caitlin was quite sure that the fire had caught. But as the shot rose, she saw the flames trailing through the air, a pale orange pennon. The boat had vanished in the mist, falling, and flaming arrow was swallowed up as well, but only for a heartbeat. Then sudden, as hoped, they saw the red bloom flower. The sails took fire and the fog glowed pink and orange. For a moment, Caitlin saw the outline of the boat clearly, wreathed in leaping flames. George R.R. Martin's A Book of Storms. For Daisy was young, and her artificial world was redolent of orchids and pleasant, cheerful snobbery and orchestras which set the rhythm of the year, summing up the sadness and suggestiveness of life in new tunes. All night the saxophones wailed the hopeless comment of the Beale Street blues, while 100 pairs of golden and silver slippers shuffled the shining dust. At the grey tea hour there were always rooms that throbbed incessantly with this low, sweet fever, while fresh faces drifted here and there like rose petals blown by the sad horns around the floor. Of course, F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby. Ahem. Excuse me, sir, excuse me. For Daisy was young? No, sir, no indeed. You don't need to start a sentence that way. You don't need it. Please rewrite. Daisy was young. Thank you. Her artificial world? No, please change to her world. Redolent is unnecessary here. Please use smells. Also, it means to smell of, and pleasantly cheerful orchestras don't smell. Well, usually. Please correct. Also, these orchestras cannot set up an entire year. The wailing saxophones is a bit heavy-handed. Please correct. The last two lines are unclear. Please correct. Here. Daisy was young and lived an easy life smelling things and listening to things. Orchestras with wailing saxophones played blues music. A lot of people were hanging about. Even at tea time. Yeah, don't do that. Come on, let's dance.